Okay, so let's take a look at the actual Arduino. And in this part of the video, I want to cover three things. I want to talk about what is an Arduino, what can we do with it, and how can we do that? So kind of a three-part. And the last question really is going to be open-ended because we're going to kind of move into doing some of the work. But I think it's important before we do any of that that we actually take some time to look at what all of this means. There's a lot going on this small little board. This little device here, a clone, can run you anywhere from $10 to the Arduino, which is $25. But what exactly is it? The Arduino is basically a microcontroller. Think about all the things that operate anything in the real world. Anything that can take in an input or output. So we're basically talking a small, inexpensive computer that we can give instructions or code, or in a case of Arduino, they call them sketches, to do whatever it is that you can think of. And literally anything that you can think of that you want to do with an Arduino, it's probably been done. So the whole entire logic frame is based on input and output. And so we've got a variety of pins and things on here that we can use. And so we want to think of the Arduino as two parts. First part, the hardware, which is the microcontroller itself. And the second part is the software, which we'll get into in the next video, that allows us to give instructions to this microcontroller to do things. So, as I said, anything that you want to do with Arduino, someone has probably already done. And I'm going to give you lots of links in the notes here, so if you haven't checked that out, to examples of projects and links to all these things that we're talking about. So, as we already mentioned, the Arduino, the microcontroller, accepts inputs from sensors, and we can plug those into pins and have the output, whatever we want that information to go out to do something with. So based on, we want electricity to come in to turn on an LED, or when it's dark to turn the light on, or if it's bright to turn a light off. We can use these using inputs and outputs. And so inputs are the sensors. The outputs, they call effectors. That would be like your LED lights, your motors, your buzzers, your servos. Things that are affected are called your outputs. So let's take a look at it. First is the red button. This is the reset. And so if we're running a code, there is no off. Like the Arduino never stops once you run a program. This allows you to stop the program and reset it. This part right here is your USB jack. Allows you to plug in your wire into your Arduino, into your computer, so you can download the sketch. This here is the DC jack for the 9-volt battery. So you can have, you can power it without your computer. This part right here is the brains of the operation. This is the actual microcontroller. Then you're gonna see a variety of other things on here. You have these rows of pins. So you've got from 0 to 13, you got 14, oh I'm sorry. You have this row here. These are your pins. You got from 0 to 13, so you have 14 what's considered digital pins. Digital pins you can program to be input or output, and we'll talk about that here in the coding in just a little bit. The digital pins, we can receive two signals, high or low, or in the binary language, a 1 or 0. Think of it as like an on or off. You're looking at like a light switch. Or a push button, on, off. That's how it works. Down here, we have some analog options. So we've got A0 to A5. Analog operates kind of like digital. The difference is that analog can actually read all the numbers in between. So where a digital is a high or low or on or off, analog can read everything in between there. And so this is really important if you're using like the temperature or humidity. It can actually read the different numbers, and then we can kick out and have different inputs. Where here, it's kind of, it's an all or nothing. Here is our power grid, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but we can provide power at 3.3 volts or 5 volts, and we've got our ground. So this allows us to adjust some of our power, but we can't do anything in between. It's that or nothing. And the ground is what we use to kind of complete our circuit, so to speak. You're also then going to see the TX and the RX. The TX is sending info out. So when you see that blinking, that means the Arduino is kicking information out, and the RX is receiving. So you'll see these blink a lot when you go to download your program, your sketches. You'll see those lights go. And the last thing that's really important is on pin 13, there's this L LED. This LED is actually triggered to pin 13. And so this is a great one to start testing our code, because you'll actually see the light go on and off, whatever that you're doing with that pin. So it's a kind of our default pin. It's actually where we'll be spending majority of our time once we get going here. So those are the kind of the key things of the Arduino. There's other little options we're not going to get to. They're more for advanced coding at this point. We got these pins here and some other functions we can do, but we're not going to worry about those at this stage in the game. Okay, so now we have talked about the Arduino. We've talked about what it is. We've talked about the different components of what comes in the kit. Now it comes into the next question. What can you do with it, and how can you do that? And so we're going to start off by trying to understand how to operate the LED light that we talked about, the L LED on pin 13. We're then going to upgrade here to the LED lights, and eventually try to control 2 LED lights, which are going to be your pumpkin eyes once we get to that step. So we're going to jump into this in the next video, and we're going to get this Arduino connected to our computer to make sure that it's communicating well, and then we're going to start writing our first code. So let's jump into it now.